Thank you very much. And this is our third day of the Inclusive Africa Conference, 5th edition. And I am honored and excited to be the moderator for the social media panel. Welcome all. And today with me, I'll be introducing my speakers in a few minutes. But I want us to just think about social media. It's become a very powerful tool, and we cannot avoid use of social media. Again, my name is Julius Mbura. I am the advocacy officer at Enable, and I am a VIP, squared, visually impaired person, but also very important person. And I am happy to have all of you here. Today I'm wearing bits of blue. Let me start by that. Yeah, I think my jacket is dominantly blue with confusion of some accents of orange and brown, checkered or lines or something, and then a sky blue shirt, black pants, shoes that are very funky, black and blue sole. It's sole. It's called sole, yeah? Yeah. And I have curly hair on top of my head with fades and a very beautiful smile. So I'm told. So, social media. Before we get into the juice of it, I want to introduce my speakers. I believe they are sitting on my right. And I have Kesa. Kesa, how are you? Kesa is a very good friend of mine. I want to introduce him for the next 1 minute. Tell us who you are, where you come from, and what you do.
Thank you very much, Julius. As already mentioned, my name is Kesa Bringsley. I'm a disability rights journalist and a lecturer of conflict resolution and international relations. I am managing editor of Disability News Africa, a digital news outlet using data-driven journalism to tell disability stories by journalists with disabilities in Africa. I am a black male with low haircut. I'm wearing a black short sleeve African wear over black pants and brown shoes. I have a metallic like watch on, and that's to my left, and to my right I'm having a Kenyan bracelet. And the topic, social media, is particularly very close to my heart because it's related to my PhD work. I'm researching on mass media access for visually impaired persons in times of conflict. And that's why I'm quite honored to be on the panel, and I hope that when we start breaking down the statistics, we would be able to pick up from there and see how social media continues to be a catalyst in fostering disability inclusion. Julius, once again, I'm quite pleased to be on the panel.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I don't know if Kesa has mentioned, but he's as blind as I am, so we can't see eye to eye. To the right of Kesa, I believe, is Jackie Waihoro. Jackie is a Mandela Fellow, and I'd like her to introduce herself the next 1 minute.
Hi, everyone. So I'm Jackie Waiharo, not Wahoro. It's Waiharo.
Sorry for that.
It's okay. I am a teacher by profession. I am a disability advocate. I'm a champion for sexual, reproductive, and health rights services among young women living with disabilities, and I'm also a disability consultant. I am a Mandela Washington Fellow, the year 2021. I'm also the founder of Safe Haven Spaces. This is a CBO a community-based organization based in Nakuru that focuses on children with disabilities to get quality education. And we also focus on sexual reproductive rights among young people living with disabilities. I'm wearing a black dress with maroon high heels, and my hair is braided. I have some braids on my hair. They are black and some, let's say, what color is this? I think brownish. Yeah, I'm happy to be here, and I'm also happy to learn. I'm ready to learn what's happening here. So thank you, Julius.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Jackie. And I'll go to my next speaker, who's Alan Herbert. Alan is doing the most in the disability space, especially amplifying voices of persons with disabilities using social media and digital assets. He has a very interesting organization, Black Albinism, which I think, with that title, is very poetic. Tells me he's a black man trapped in a white skin. Alan.
Julius, I don't know why you're trying to preempt our recent conversation on our podcast here.
I actually promised myself I wouldn't, and I just found myself just,
No problem.
Yeah.
And to get the full gist of what Julius is talking about, I do not want to take your attention away from the conversation that we're going to be having, but you could go onto your YouTube and search for Include 360. You'll find a thundering conversation that I had with Julius Mura to basically show the kind of work that we want to achieve around social media and participation of persons with disabilities. In my other life, I am a founder of an organization called Black Albinism. We champion for social inclusion for persons with albinism, and of course extensively for persons with disabilities, because we believe, or I believe, and one of my mentors who is seated in the room, if you can, Sarah, wave, she tells me, Alan, we cannot achieve disability inclusion if we walk in single packs. We have to walk as a wolf of packs, as a pack of wolves, for us to be able to achieve the journey of inclusion. I am on this panel because I am a journalist, and I have a keen interest in propagating the voices of persons with disabilities. Why social media? I have tried from here to Timbuktu to break into mainstream media. I haven't managed just as yet. I was telling somebody yesterday that I am a person who does not like to sit around and do nothing. So I look at social media as a front where we could be able to amplify our voices, and that gives me the capacity to be on this panel. Thank you, Julius.
Thank you, Alan. So that's my panel. We should be having another speaker, Faith. If you're here, kindly make your way. And I'd like to warn the audience and my speakers that we don't have so much time. But when you start talking about social media, I know we can talk the whole day. And when I was thinking about this panel last night, it occurred to me that persons with disabilities are the most underrepresented when it comes to mainstream and social media. Let's bring it home. Social media. What are we talking about? We have Instagram, Facebook, that's Meta, and WhatsApp. You can put it there as a social media platform, because nowadays we have tools of sharing like status and broadcasting. We have X, famously Twitter, and what you'd call LinkedIn, which is a sort of like professional platform for people who want to market their business but also grow their brand career-wise. And contentionally, we have YouTube. And now, the one that I know everyone, maybe 80% of us are on, TikTok, right? TikToker. And it's blazing because it's given trends of the likes, like reels, short videos, especially consumption of short videos. When you wake up in the morning, and by the time you're going to bed, I'm sure 4 or 5 hours spread out in the day you spend on social media, scrolling, interacting, and having to look up what is trending. So I want to delve deep into social media. We will look at accessibility aspects, also how social media helps persons with disabilities to advocate, but also to create awareness, positive and negative impact of social media. And at the end, we'll tell you our social media handles. Yeah? I know Alan is very active, Jackie as well. Kesa, I think his whole life is dependent on amplifying voices of persons with disabilities. Let me start with Kesa, actually. How do you access social media, and what tools do you use, especially being a blind person? Before I sort of like add to that.
Thank you very much, Julius. Even before I delve straight into the question you asked, you spoke earlier about statistics. And for those of us who are in the world of research, a very richly composed panel like this one would not kick off without having to present some very crucial statistics on which we are going to build the discourse. Now, there are over 80 million persons with disabilities in Africa, according to WHO 2024. And of this population, the World Bank estimates that only 15% of them are actually using social media. And you also want to note that there are only, that of this 80 million, only 3 to 4% of persons with disabilities have access to formal education and can read and write, which are important, components in making use of the social media. Now, on to the question: how do I access social media? I actually use screen readers as a person with visual impairment to be able to access and use social media. I use TalkBack, I use NVDA, and I use JAWS. That's for the computer. And for my phone, I use TalkBack, which is a Google screen reader. Now, these are the screen reader, users, or readers, I want to say, Julius, that I use to be able to access social media platforms, to be able to reach out. Remember that in the past, it was so difficult for persons with disabilities to access, the media, especially the mainstream media, where we are poorly represented. And so with the emergence of the new media, we are able to indulge ourselves in what I call citizen journalism. It is not everyone who must go through formal training before they can become journalists. Today we have citizen journalists, and good enough, a new concept is emerging in Zimbabwe, a country not far from us, known as layered journalism, in which those who are citizen journalists are now able to liaise with, professional journalists to make their work even better. And that's why social media is a crucial tool which we now use to be able to amplify disability voices, to articulate for greater media representation, and above all, to erase negative societal perceptions. And so, Julius, yes. I am quite active on Facebook, I'm active on WhatsApp, I'm active on Twitter, I'm active on LinkedIn and YouTube. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kesa. Just picking it from that notion of, changing the negative perceptions of persons with disabilities using social media as the tool. Jackie, I'm coming to you in a moment. When we talk about, and this has been the trend for the longest time, social media being used to show, like for us, we all have accounts here for social media, and most of the time you'll use it for personal reasons, and that is to show people, best dress today, and to also get into conversations on what is happening, current affairs. But I know for a fact that organizations of persons with disabilities also get to use social media. So, Jackie, what do you think has been the positive and negative connotations when it comes to social media, and especially when organizations get to embrace social media as a way to showcase what they are doing, but also to get in touch with what is happening?
Okay, thank you. So I just forgot to mention something before I answer the question. I have a disability. My disability is scoliosis, or in layman's language, it's the hunchback. It's on the left side of my back. So when it comes to social media and representation of persons with disabilities, there are so many positive things we get from social media as well as negative. So first of all, when it comes to advocacy and awareness, for example, myself, I use social media mostly to advocate and create awareness of matters to do with disabilities, because there are so many assumptions out there about people with disabilities, and not so many people have taken their time to study matters to do with disabilities or the challenges or the positive capabilities that people with disabilities go through. So for myself, I use social media to create awareness out there and also to advocate for our rights. I normally tell my friends that we cannot keep on advocating for our rights, yet we ourselves have not completely accepted ourselves. So I normally tell them first, you have to accept yourself so that we can go on and advocate for ourselves. So social media is a very good tool or a very important tool when it comes to advocacy, and also when it comes to combating the stereotypes that come with disabilities. Also, it's also a good platform for educational opportunities. This is whereby we tend to share opportunities that come from, like opportunities like grants. There are programs like the one that I attended, that is Mandela Washington Fellowship. There are just so many opportunities that are shared on social media. Also, another thing is used for visibility and recognition. People with disabilities are rarely or underrepresented in social media. So when we use social media, persons with disabilities, we feel seen, we feel recognized, and also that sense of belonging in the online community. So social media is a very powerful tool in our community as people with disabilities. Myself, I'm very active in Facebook, X, LinkedIn, TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. So I'm not very much active in dating sites, but I'd love to venture into that very soon. Yeah.
Thank you. I like how you brought it a segue of the dating scene. And, like for me and Kesa, when you get there, it will be all about blind dates, when we talk about awareness, creation of, and shifting perceptions, mindsets, change of mindsets and behavior, social media is very powerful because that's how you even showcase things that are otherwise like out of reach for persons with disabilities, or what they think is impossible for us. Actually, my kind of advocacy on social media has been very disruptive. Even joining on very popular trends and challenges like Goda Tena, and you'll see me driving or riding motorbikes. Sometimes people think I'm putting myself at risk, but it's a way to show that we are more than what the society has dictated persons with disabilities to be. And how do we show that? We show by what we do on a daily, like get ready with me. I need to do that. By the way, we need to challenge ourselves. Jackie, Kesa, and Alan, we need to do a get ready with. For people with disabilities, it's very common out here. Even people will ask you, how do you shower? How do you dress up? And sometimes I wear crazy colors, and they're like, how did you see the color?
Sometimes, how do you make love?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so coming to Alan, and I know someone once said that, I thought children were cruel until I got on social media. Mm-hmm. And that is because anyone, and you've had this being thrown over and over, keyboard warriors. Of course, you have keyboard warriors who will come to you for no good reason, attacking you because of your disability. And it's actually, on the flip side, very possible for a person to actually have a disability and not anyone to know about the disability. You can actually mask your disability using social media. But again, when it becomes apparent, Alan, there is the issue of cyberbullying that people don't talk about. I have been a victim, and I know for most of us using social media, and especially when you have an invisible disability like mine, no one can tell that I'm blind. It starts like banter, right? People start joking. I'm all about blind jokes. You all know. I can see you, right? So how and the borders of cyberbullying and emotional and depression even. How do you deal with that? How have you faced cyberbullying and aggression, and how do you deal with that to even maintain your sanity and emotional balance?
Thank you, Julius, for that question. And it is a question that is full of that's full with emotion. But before I tackle that question, I would like to speak to what Jackie was talking about on how organizations of persons with disabilities should be able to capitalize on social media. There is one bone I have to chew with many organizations of persons with disabilities. We use social media to report to our donors and people that we were working with, but would really rather need to change how we look at social media and use it as a tool to not only report to our donors, because I understand everybody in the room thinks that is important. I also think it is important, but with the humongous following that we have, how could we spill into trends such as what Julius does, which I think is outstanding, so that we can add on the value that we provide on our social media platforms. Now, Julius, unfortunately, myself, I haven't been bullied on social media just as yet, but I will give an example of a video that we put out on our Black Albinism social media account, that is particularly TikTok. And I was amazed that in a single day, this single video had over 120,000 views. And we were like, okay, and also shout out to Charlene, our social media person, she's somewhere in the room. And we thought, okay, probably we are doing good work. People are getting to learn about albinism eventually. But when you read deep in the comments, the kind of comments are treacherous. Just as Kesa said, probably this might need discretion, but they would ask, people would put comments, I would love to have sex with a lady with albinism. How would it sound? And actually, we had to talk to the lady who was featured in the video, and we were like, are you comfortable for this to stay on the internet? She was gracious enough and she said, okay, I know there are comments that I am not pleased with, but then Black Albinism is supposed to use that content and comment on every negative comment that is on that video so that we can put out the right information and so that we can demystify some of the myths that people are propagating about particularly albinism. So I would like to extrapolate it to other disabilities that, yes, cyberbullying is tough, sometimes it's bad, but how could we also use it as an opportunity in disguise, not only to take down that type of content, but to use that to gravitate on that traction that we've been able to create so that now we can demystify. And I've seen, Julius, you've used this in a couple of times, where you have answered to particular questions or particular ill comments that have been made about you, so that now you can be able to educate that particular person who has made that particular comment.
Thank you, Alan. So I think what is coming out clearly is that you need to have a thick skin. When you're getting into the social media scene, you need to have a thick skin because, as you know, people have issues. And someone will come even to your post and they'll be projecting what they're going through. Or sometimes I even take the advantage of that. And I like how Alan, you put it. We should use it as a disguise to actually spread more awareness, but also to sort of like correct these people when it comes to, because I'll tell you the truth, the wider society has not been, and to some level, is not prepared for the disruption. Because once you start doing extraordinary things as a person with a disability, they don't know how to handle that. So the reaction will be there. So you are the constant. And I'm speaking now to the room and anyone who has a disability who's using social media. And I've gotten people coming to me and telling me I had to deactivate my account just because of the amount of hate I get on social media. Oh, you don't look human enough. You're ugly. You know, and part of why we are on social media is because of how much we've accepted and embraced who we are and what we are. So coming to Jackie, what do you think would look like what is the bright future? And I'm now talking about children with disabilities, because they're very innocent, and some of them, yeah, they're on social media, Gen Zs. But what do you think? And I know there's a lot of filters of what needs to go where and what needs to reach certain audience. What do you think would be shaped by the younger generation of persons with disabilities to actually come out and be advocates and create visibility when it comes to disability matters, but most importantly, show that disability doesn't need to be the negative part of life that everyone else thinks about?
Thank you so much. Just before I answer your question, let me just touch on something that Alan has said. That I never knew that it was cyberbullying. I once experienced it. So once I was participating in an event in Nakuru, and then a guy told me that it was a disability event, and then a guy told me that, I've been so heartbroken in my life that I just wanted one day to settle with a lady with a disability, because I believe a person with a disability will not do what? Will not cheat. So thank you, Alan, for making sure that that is one of the cyberbullying things. So back to your question, Julius. The younger generation is quite exposed when it comes to social media. A lot is going on in the social media spaces, both positive and negative. So I think the first thing we should do education. Like, we should educate people on the details about social media, the platforms, the biases, the good things, the bad things about social media and all that, so that we make sure that our future kids are well protected. And also there's this thing that called parental guidance. I think most parents should be very cautious about what their kids are involved in when it comes to social media, or what they share in social media. This will just bring out, because you can, as a parent, you can say that my kid is well protected. I know my kids. We are parents, so we can just support our kids, and we don't know what our kids are doing out there. So it's very, very good for us as parents to be very cautious on, because most kids have phones, on what the kids are sharing on social media and the groups they are going on. Because when these kids experiences cyberbullying, most of them, we are getting so many cases of suicide, kids killing themselves, or kids getting into depression because of what they are getting from, the feedback they are getting from these social media platforms. So we should be very careful on what our kids engage in, and also we should be very careful on the kind of materials they share out there. So as parents, as people with disabilities, and also as guardians, let's be careful on the devices we give to our kids, and also be careful on what they share out there.
Thank you, Jackie. And you've touched on something really pertinent when it comes to, even like emotional health of not only children, but everyone who's using social media. And it's very common to have an addiction to social media. And sometimes we find sort of like solace when it comes to self-gratification, being on social media, getting the likes. Of course, you've heard of click and bet. And most of the time, and you've heard this, you have people chasing clout, right? And it's very funny, also touching on the cyberbullying bit, that you'd get people telling, and I've heard these comments before, that you're using blindness to chase for clout. And I'm like, no one would use a disability to actually get ahead or chase for clout. If anything, we look for ways to get out of disability. No one asks for a disability or to have it. The reason why, and social media, it's social, so it's society and media, right? And it's created a platform where you have even like digital marketing being realized. From the era of COVID-19, corporates, big brands, and big institutions started using social media to get to the masses, because let's talk the truth here. Mainstream media is dying slowly but sure, because social media has created a platform that is instant. Look at mainstream media. When they are even broadcasting, they go to YouTube live. even some going to the likes of Facebook Live, and even now TikTok, right? Because many people, and with the advancements of technology, you find that it's very easy to access social media and to consume information and current affairs on the go. Instead of having to wait for 6 hours, you go back home and then you turn your TV on, and now you have to wait for another like 50 minutes because there is, commercial advertisements and all that. Anyway, let's not get into the politics of it. Kesa, let me come to you, and I know we have the big five tech, companies here. What message do you have when it comes to social media and disability inclusion, and most importantly, tools, assistive technology, digital accessibility that enable a level playing field for persons with disabilities? I know there is a use of alt text. I use it a lot on Instagram, Facebook, X, and LinkedIn as well. And we also have captioning, for persons who are deaf. And we are slowly embracing, digital accessibility as a priority, because even nowadays when I go to post, when I'm scrolling and they don't have alt text, there is a feature, especially on Facebook and Instagram, that describes the general appearance of the photo. So if it's a man standing in front of a tree, it will sort of like pick those details. And now we even have AI that intervenes. Anyway, let's, Kesa, what do you think should be the next, big move to make sure that disability inclusion is achieved through social media?
Thank you very much for that question. I think even before I delve into the nitty-gritty of your question, it is super imperative to, avail to the 5 tech companies here present some of the huge benefits or successes that we've recorded as persons with disabilities in Africa thanks to the usage of social media. Now, in Ghana, 2 years ago, tour boot workers were dropped from work because, disabled tour boot workers, over 200 of them, because the country was moving into an electronic tax system. They were unemployed, they could not feed their families. In fact, some of them actually committed suicide. Disability News Africa worked on this story quite exclusively, and we published a story in late last year. I want to tell you that we published this story, we shared Disability News Africa publications on different social media platforms, including Facebook and others. And in March this year, all of them who were dropped from work were actually provided recruitment in Ghana. In Cameroon, persons with a visual impairment for the last 20 years have not been able to participate in university games. In March this year, we did an investigative piece which we shared on social media platforms. 2 weeks later, the country's higher education minister actually passed an order that from the next edition, athletes with visual impairment will take part in the games. Still in March this year, we worked on a story on access to potable water for persons with disabilities in Africa. And that very March, we started receiving calls from individuals and organizations from across the continent who are willing to support persons with disabilities have access to potable water. Imagine a situation where in northern Ghana, persons with disabilities were drinking from the same source with cattle and sheep. It is terrible, but I can tell you that there is more to this even. And so it's important, my dear partners from the different tech companies, that we begin thinking of partnering with disability media organizations to see how we can continue to jettison some of the negative societal perceptions toward us and to set a beautiful path of digital inclusion in Africa. And I am glad that Microsoft and Meta particularly have giant projects in Africa. But while appreciating the fact that Meta will soon, or Facebook will soon open up for monetization in Kenya, like Oliver Twist, we in the rest of Africa think that it would be injustice because Facebook is used all over the continent And I believe that monetization should happen anywhere, because as much as we do the work we do, we need financial resources to be able to sustain the vision. And that's why for us at Disability News Africa, we have developed a rigorous 3-month-long fellowship to train and equip not only storytellers, not only disabled journalists between the age of 18 and 35, but also storytellers. Because like I mentioned, layer journalism, we are able to liaise with storytellers to teach them the basics of leveraging solutions journalism to solve contemporary problems in Africa. For Microsoft, we are also open that you assist even some of our journalists with the requisite tools to be able to, computers and other accessories, to be able to have access to telling these stories, because without digital strength, inclusion, we are left all alone. And so we want to partner with you people to have that network of disabled journalists from across the continent, social media users, influencers, so that we can together make life better. And what I'm leaving as a last statement to this tech industry, which I'm borrowing from one-time clergy in South Africa, Archbishop Desmond Tutu, that if you are neutral at the face of injustice, then you have just taken the side of the oppressor. We know you don't want us oppressed, and so we are open-minded. We are willing to embrace the changes we are bringing and to ensure that the 80 million population of Africa are not left in limbo, but they are able to exploit the tenet of digital inclusion and make life better, and so they can equitably and meaningfully participate in community life.
Thank you, Kesa. I know that goes very passionately to look at different aspects of inclusion and fighting for disability rights. I wanted to use the excuse that I don't see time, so.
Could you stay on that excuse so that I could make a point as well?
Apparently and unfortunately, I've been warned not to use it. I wanted to, but I think the disclaimer was we have limited time. So I'm sorry, Alan, I know you'll kill me, but I have to end the panel here. But before I do that, I want to encourage everyone in the room. You've had the very positive and impactful, and I use, social media is a tool for storytelling even. The beginning of this conference, our executive director, Irene, used one of the videos on social media to just pass a very powerful message. That is a stammerer who uses TikTok to sort of create awareness and advocacy. I'm very privileged and honored to have had a chance to hold this panel and to have very powerful speakers. And to everyone in the room, as we use social media, just think of, I guess I like the way you've brought it home with the influencer and, sort of pushing for change using persons with disabilities. Because even for organizations of persons with disabilities, I like how Alan Hubbard talked about, we need to also create awareness, not only to report to our donors, because then why are we creating awareness in the first place? It's supposed to be to our beneficiaries, but also to go with the flow, how information is being consumed on social media. And again, who says that persons with disabilities cannot be influencers and socialites, right, on social media? Why can't we use persons with disabilities to create visibility for our brands and corporate affairs, using it for the positive impact that they have in the society? And again, create this wave of the next level transformation and freedom, liberating not only persons with disabilities, but the wider society. I know, I've had someone coming. Before we finish, I want my speakers to, please, let's not, you know what I'm saying. Just say your social media handles, and everyone can get their phones out. Do we have our phones out? I'm looking at you. Yes, So let's give our social media handles so that everyone in the room can follow on what we do and what we are trying to create as the movement of positive change in the society. Alan, let me start with you before you, no, at least
You're being lenient, yeah?
yeah.
Okay, I will take only 30 seconds, not only to say my socials, but also to make a quick point here.
Yeah.
Big tech companies have enabled us to access social media platforms, but why haven't they enabled us to create on those social media platforms? Yesterday, I had an opportunity to speak to a lady from Google, and I asked her a pertinent question. There is a fund for creators who are black. Why don't we have a fund for creators with disabilities? You can find me at Include 360 on the work that we are doing around disability and media. Also, on the first floor, we have a podcasting booth. So if you are willing to have a conversation about the conference, kindly find us there. Thank you, Julius.
Thank you very much. Why don't we, I just let that simmer. Jackie, what's your social media handles?
Okay, my social media, all of them.
Yes.
Facebook, Twitter, it's Jackie Waiharo. Jackie, Jacky. And just one final parting shot. I can't blend in when I was meant to stand out.
Hey, well, we are throwing missiles here. Kesa.
I am at Kesa Pringsley on social media handles, but follow our Facebook page, disabilitynewsafrica.org. And let me end to borrow from Winston Churchill to say that this is neither the beginning nor the end, but it is just the start of a new dawn of change in Africa. Thank you very much.
Yeah, so that's a very good way to end this panel. You're waiting for my social media as well? Okay. So on YouTube, look for Julio Supercharge. Julio is J, not H. So for Kenyans, Julio Supercharge. I love you all. And Facebook as well, Julio Supercharge. But when it comes to Insta, TikTok, and X, look for J Supercharge. J is for Julio, of course, or Julio. And yeah, follow the great work that we continue to do. And I'll say it's, and borrowing from the words of Kesa and Jackie and also what Alan has sort of like pointed out, are we giving persons with disabilities opportunities through social media, or are we bringing them down, trying to show that they can't or they are not good enough? Are you part of that? And as a person with a disability, you're beautiful in your own way, you're powerful in what you do, and show the world through social media and any other platform that you may have that your voice matters and you are more than capable and you have so much potential. Just go out and be. Thank you very much. And sorry for going over. Maybe 1 or 2 minutes. I didn't see the time. Now I can say that at least. And yeah, thank you guys. And yeah, let's continue to impact lives using social media. My mantra is to change mindsets, shift perceptions, and touch lives in the process. So everything I put my mind and hands on, because I can't put my eyes, yes. Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Wow.